Welcome, everyone. My name is Frida Nixdorf, and I represent the Work That Reconnects Network. Thank you for joining us today for the webinars and Conversation Cafe series, where we are offering a wide range of rich educational and supportive opportunities for our global community of Work That Reconnects facilitators, members, and friends of the network. So our intention is to strengthen the web of the Work That Reconnects community while continually reaching beyond our current edges to weave deeper connections with others who are contributing to the great turning in diverse and complementary ways. So Sylvia is joining us today to provide support. We ask that you keep yourselves on mute unless you are speaking, and we certainly prefer your cameras on if possible. We have closed the chat function except for specific parts of the webinar. You'll still be able to chat with Sylvia or myself if you need support. So reach out if you need that. So today we are offering a highly interactive webinar, and we will have one breakout room. Breakout rooms won't be recorded. We understand that there are many reasons why some of you may not want to or may not be able to join a breakout room. And in that case, we ask that those of you take a moment to rename yourselves by adding a number 1 before your name so that we can easily identify you and send you to a waiting room rather than a breakout room. So if you prefer not to join a breakout room, simply rename yourself. You can keep your name, just add a number 1 in front of your name. So to rename yourself, hover over your Zoom window where you will see 3 little white dots. You click on those dots and select rename. So keep your name, just added 1 right before it, and then we can easily identify you and keep you from the breakout room, and you'll be in a waiting room during that period of time. And we will repeat this prior to the breakout room, just so everyone has a chance to rename themselves. Great, so today we are celebrating the launch of the 2nd edition of Active Hope. After just 1 decade, much has changed. And today we will hear from co-authors Joanna Macy and Chris Johnstone. And together as a group, we will journey through the spiral of the work. We will have time together as a full group and time together in breakout session. So because we are journeying through the spiral, we hope that you will be able to join us for the 2 full hours of our time together today. Before I introduce Chris and Joanna, I would also just like to mention that this webinar is very emergent, as we've been planning and meeting over the past couple of weeks, responding to this moment in time, and to those of you who are arriving. So we have some last minute changes, and just hoping that you will all roll with us as we work together through our time together today. And we really appreciate your presence. So Joanna, as you know, is the root teacher of the Work That Reconnects. She's a practitioner of Buddhism, general systems theory, and deep ecology, and has been an activist for more than 6 decades. And she has authored or co-authored 18 books. And Chris is a medical doctor, a coach, and trainer who has specialized in the psychology of resilience, behavior change, and recovery from addiction. He offers online resilience courses that have engaged people from more than 60 countries. Chris has been an activist since his teenage years, and he has taught and written about the psychology of sustainability for more than 30 years. Chris and Joanna met at a week-long training led by Joanna in Scotland and have worked together many times since. An Active Hope is offered as a set of practices and insights to draw strength from, as well as a mythic journey to be transformed by. And Active Hope is one of the fruits of their collaboration. So let us all welcome Joanna and Chris.
Hello, all. Good morning here, good evening elsewhere, midday in here. I am thrilled that we are gathering.
Me too.
Percent kin in the Work That Reconnects. those you have been bringing it to people, those of you who have come to know it and rely on it and feel it in your bones. We are gathered here on a wonderful occasion. I am so pleased that the last 2 years of work with my dear friend and colleague, Chris Johnstone, conversations, actually a good 100 Zoom conversations of from California, where I am sitting in Berkeley, California, to northern Scotland. And we have been exploring what we love and what we've been discovering and what we feel and what we see is needed now. This is a time so different from just 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I guess, with the first issue, the first book, and now comes this second one, Active Hope. How to face the mess we're in with unexpected resilience and creative power. It comes directly out of our experience of this time we are living. There's been great changes for all of us in our culture, in our economy, in our weather, and in the relations between the nations. There's war making going on now that it looks as if, and the weapons makers are getting richer, and the fabric of our world is getting ever more tenuous. And the weather, just this last week, we're gathering after there's been absolutely stunning shifts in appearance of heat, flooding, and especially burning. Fires even in the British Isles. Temperatures up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Shootings. So many say to me, and I have heard me say it too, what is happening to our world? And feeling and expressing a sense of deep dismay. And yes, sometimes, oh, what can we possibly do? So in this one, that's what prompted us to turn to our roots. And the roots include everything that we've known is true about people and our resilience, our capacity, our inventiveness, and the deep roots of our readiness and capacity for change. And to what has heartened us over the last decades. 40 for me, 30 for Chris. So it's been a labor of laughter and love in a way, as well as deep reflection, exploration, and honesty that has gone into the crafting of this book. And I am so thrilled. And we worked unexpected resilience and creative power because we have it and we trust this work, and there are so many fresh new ways to explore it and bring it out to each other. So I am so glad to be here with you and look forward to learning not only with you and from you today, and with this book. So let me say a word more about what I'm especially thrilled about this book is that we have gone into, we start for one thing, so it's raw, in a sense, a raw voice from this moment where so many of us and so many people around us are losing hope. and speaking it openly, and who are coming together when they are often just complaining. This is a moment, as we will see, as we turn again to the Shambhala prophecy, where we discover what can really hold us together, what really reveals the powers that we can use. Powers of clarity, powers of understanding, powers of compassion, powers of deep experience of our interconnectedness. So you will be nodding, you facilitators of the work that reconnects, in passages to say, yes, I experienced that too. Yes, I want to remember that too. Yes, I can learn again to trust more than ever these dynamics of honesty, gratitude. And speaking of gratitude, I am grateful every day of my life that I'm still around here in Earth with all of us. I am so grateful to be with people when they are facing perhaps the hardest thing that humans have faced. We've faced a lot over the millennia. But when countries with these new incredible nuclear weapons begin to fight each other and use them already. We're using nuclear bombs already by threatening their use. So, okay, we're made for this time. That's what this book reminds us of. We're made for this time. You are also lucky, as I am, to have found this work. And we are going to the roots of it and going with a new, refreshed gratitude for the Shambhala prophecy in this meeting and in our lives, I hope. So next, who's next?
And I'd like to follow on from Joanna, just to say, fantastic hearing you, Joanna, and also to see the many faces of our larger community and the work we're doing together, really holding that question, how to face the mess we're in. We're acknowledging it. And I wanted to share some pictures as a way of picking up on, following on from Joanna, some of the offerings in this new edition that are particularly relevant to our time. And if I share screen, and it would just take just a moment to get that. So here we go. Here is our new cover. And one of the first things you'll see that's different is the subtitle, How to Face the Mess We're In with Unexpected Resilience and Creative Power. And I just wanted to say a little about what's meant by unexpected resilience and creative power. And in our last chapter, we invite the reader, and I'm going to invite you now to have a thought experiment. And a thought experiment is where you work on the basis of what if. What if I held a tennis ball in one hand and a tomato in the other? And I'm going to invite all of you to do this now, just to hold your hands out. Imagine you're holding a tennis ball in one hand and a tomato in the other. And we're exploring this question, what do we mean by unexpected resilience and creative power? And then I'm going to invite you to squeeze. And this is a thought experiment. If you did this in real life, it might be a bit messy, perhaps. But resilience is often thought of as bouncing back, springing back into shape. And that's what you get with the tennis ball. You can squeeze hard and it springs back into shape. But when you squeeze hard with the tomato, you get collapse. And we see that happening in many ways in our world, aspects of our world in collapse, but also ourselves. Sometimes we may experience personal collapse. We may collapse in a heap like a squashed tomato on the floor, in response to disturbing news about our world. But if you hold in your mind just the idea that if you squeezed your tomato outside, and those pips were tomato seeds were perhaps pecked up by some bird or got trodden into the soil, you could imagine coming back 100 years later, if you or someone coming back 100 years later, or maybe 10 years later, some later point in time, and see tomatoes growing, because there's this incredible resilience in life of the tomato seed, that it can survive the harshest of winters or severe droughts, that and grow again. And there's something here about the story of resilience. What we mean by unexpected resilience is the resilience of life that can happen through us, and that we can have a fire that's burnt. You can have a fire burnt, but then come back after a wildfire and see new growth. So how do we take part? Resilience is about where there's a response to a difficulty that makes a better version of what comes next more lightly. And that's what active hope is about. And we talk about the great turning, a shift in emphasis from the great turning as a thing that happens. And certainly for me as a facilitator, I'm often coming across people say things like, the great turning sounds like a lovely idea, but I can't see it happening. Or maybe we're too late. Maybe we've missed the boat. It would have been great if it happened 10 years ago, or 20 or 30 years ago. But what I like to ask is, what would the great turning look like if it was happening through us now? And that's what I mean by process. It is a shift in emphasis where we say, what would it look like if it was happening through us now? And what we write about in the new edition of Active Hope is the idea of 3 types of turning. One is turning up with an intention to play our part. And in that turning up, there'll be things that we want to turn away from, personally and collectively, and things that we want to turn towards in terms of that which supports the flourishing of life, ways of being and doing and thinking that support the flourishing of life. So what I find so helpful here is it turns the great turning into a doable thing. Because wherever we are, whatever we face, we can turn up with an intention to play our part. There are things that we can turn away from. There are things that we can turn towards. And really, the process of active hope, and I think of it as project active hope. Project active hope is where we're looking at what supports our turning up, what supports our turning away from things that cause harm, what supports our turning towards each other. And the Work That Reconnects plays such an important role, contribution there. The work of Active Hope, we're really looking at what supports our turning up so that we can live from this story, the great turning. It's a vantage point to look at what's going on from. And we can play our role in Active Hope as a practice every day, starting from where we are, identifying what we hope for, and taking steps that move us that way. So more on what supports that. One of the things that supports that is the guiding story of the Shambhala warrior prophecy. And that's what we want to focus on as a key element in this webinar. And Joanna, I want to pass back to you.
Oh, yes, I remember when we first met, and that was 30 years ago in Northern Scotland then, where you live near Fintorn, I told it then. And at that point, I'd received it 10 years earlier. So it's from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And it came with that tradition in the 12th century, about the time that the Buddha Dharma came to Tibet. And at that time arose this prophecy. Now, I had never heard about or read anywhere about this until I was where was I? I was in India with my friend and teacher, who was a Buddhist Rinpoche, and I was at their little community in exile. They had, he and his flock, other Rinpoches, other teachers, and many artists and families and lay families coming out. And they had come out together in large numbers from Eastern Tibet. And they had kept holding on to each other as if through staying together, trusting each other, holding each other, caring for each other, the incredible history that they had brought from the 12 centuries of practice in their native land. And that was so powerful to experience in them. And then I remember I was there and it was in the first days of 1980, so 42 years ago today. And I was visiting with my family how these people that I'd come to love, and I had been in correspondence, particularly with Dugu Gyal Rinpoche, who gave me the prophecy. And we were seeing them in the place they had through faithfulness, deliberation, and a lot of work. And we corresponded very frequently, consistently, and I had heard about their sinking roots in this place of exile, so that it could continue to teach and bring their irreplaceable tradition to wider seekers, people who living with questions and readiness. So out of the blue on this, I was visiting after 15 years. It was 15 years after our first meeting. And I had tried during that year, I'd been living with my family in India, and we wanted to try to keep these refugees together. If they were already a community of monks, Rinpoches, lamas, and a full lay community, and artists, and dancers, and carvers, and they were for the great lama dances that they brought with them. So I did, at that point, refugees from Tibet, about 180,000 of them then, were shipped off to various places in India and scattered. And I was convinced, I worked so hard trying to keep these people together and working with people in government and other foundations benefiting, seeking to give help, keep these people together, and they had. And so we were celebrating the fact, and also it reminds me that this morning with you, thanks to Zoom, we can be together. We can be together with people so close to us in the work that reconnects that we may never meet. Yeah, and that I don't travel much anymore at all, practically, at 93. But I can be with you. At any rate, I want to be with you to tell this prophecy, because that's what happened when I went to visit 40 years ago. Their new place with my family, which happened to be with me, but I was alone with my teacher. And out of the blue, he began to tell this. And so I'm going to tell it to you now, and so that you can hear it the way I did. He began to speak without any introduction. He just a little pause and then came his words. He said, there comes a time when all life on earth is in danger. In this time, great powers have arisen, barbarian powers. And although they waste their wealth in preparations to annihilate each other, they have much in common. And among the things they have in common are weapons of vast, incredible devastation. And he added, and technologies that lay waste to the world. And it's just at this point when the future of all life is in danger. The Shambhala, the kingdom of Shambhala emerges. Now you can't go there. It's not a place. It exists in the hearts and minds of the Shambhala warriors. And actually, you can't even tell a Shambhala warrior by looking at them. There's no uniform, no insignia. They have no barricades on which to climb to threaten the enemy. They have no barricades, and that they can hide behind. They don't even have any home turf. Forever and always, they must move and negotiate their way in the region, which is everywhere, in the land of the terrain of the barbarians. Then he paused and then he said, now the time has come. The time has come when great courage is required of the Shambhala warriors. Moral courage and physical courage. Because they are going to go straight into the realm, into the presence of the barbarians. And they are going to, they're going to go into training for meeting them. With that in mind, they decided they are going right into the heart of the barbarians' power to dismantle their weapons in every sense of the word. So as they make their way into the pits and citadels where the armaments are made, so are they also entering into the corridors of power where the barbarians' decisions are made. Now heed this. The Shambhala warriors are aware that these weapons can be dismantled. That is because they are manomaya, mind-made. They are made by the human mind, and they can be unmade by the human mind. So the dangers facing us are not fashioned by some satanic deity or extraterrestrial force, nor are they locked in to some unchangeable, immutable, preordained fate. The dangers facing us, the Shambhala warriors know, are created by our choices. our habits, our relationships. So now is the time, said Shugyal Rinpoche, to go for the Shambhala warriors to go into training. How do they train? I asked. They train in the use of 2 implements or tools, he said. What are they? I asked. And he held up his hands, holding ritual objects, the dorji and the bell, representing compassionate action and total understanding of our interexistence with all beings, with this wisdom bell. As he holding them, he said, you need both. I'll tell you why. Because with the compassionate action, that it gives you, this represents the motivation, the burning desire to bring reason and salvation to our world. And built on compassion being suffered now by all its beings. Compassion of the murderer as well as the victim. For them, for all of us. This is so hot though. It's like fuel. It takes you out where you need to be to do what you need to do. It'll burn you out unless you have the other tool, the wisdom of our interbeing. And with this, you know that every action you take has repercussions through the web of life beyond our main even capacity to discern. But this by itself is cool, a bit abstract. So it needs the warmth, the action. These together are the tools of the Shambhala warrior. And this is how you can find them. You find them here, and I was remembering how when I listened to those words of my beloved friend, I was thinking of the countless times in the prayer hall of their community, the monks chanting, often with their hands, they danced mudras of compassion and wisdom. And you, us all, of this amazing moment for planet Earth, at this planetary moment, there's never been, perhaps there's never been, I cannot think of there ever having been a time as murderous and hard as now, with destruction on all sides. And I've moaned and groaned about that too, like other people, and then I think of the Shambhala warrior. And the Shambhala warriors know that with with our heart and mind, the compassion of our heart, the wisdom of our mind to see the interbeing of all. That's why we're here. So that has been with me for 42 years. And I'm struck by how my friend's use of the word in the prophecy, the challenge comes from those who are called barbarians. What would that mean? I think that means that they have no moral compass, no tradition that they have found that they can trust, no teaching that they have found that they can take in. So if there's not that, it's just, I guess it's everybody for themselves. Just pile up what you can. Get what you can get. For who then? Well, I guess for number one, my big fat ego. And we see people pursuing that in our time. We have more billionaires than have ever been counted or existed. It's sort of, what do you do when you have no overarching sense of purpose and meaning? Something that can help you feel grounded and rooted. And that your work, your whole life kind of shining with, imbued with a sense of belonging to something of moral significance, belonging to earth as we already do. What we most need is just the good common sense of our belonging to our living planet. And what's wonderful is at this time for all of us is that there is so much from science and philosophy and teachings and even art celebrating that in our time, in my lifetime, the discovery that our earth, our planet, is a living system, alive. We belong to it. It feeds us. It can act through us. And this knowledge, like the bell of wisdom, is being brought to us now by science. It's being brought also by the joy that leaps up in us when we hear that. That stirs in us when we feel a longing to belong. I long to belong to something, says the poet Rilke. Yes, I want to put the pieces of my shattered being in your hands, O wise one. They've been scattered, but now we come together in a knowing that we belong together to a living planet. That is our deepest identity. So the barbarians, we can begin to think that they're not that. They have a purpose. Yeah. Purpose of money. Purpose of political power. Yeah. And we can see how pathetic that is and how lucky we are if we can see ourselves as a Shambhala warrior. So thank you so much for your hearing, and we will now, I think, yeah. Sylvia, where do we go now?
We will have breakout rooms. Frida, do you want to introduce those?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Joanna. So just staying with the call of the Shambhala warrior prophecy, we're just going to take a moment to organize ourselves, and Chris will be introducing breakout rooms. We'll be going into breakout rooms. But before we do, you may have noticed that some folks have been putting the number 1 in front of their names. And this is in case you would prefer to not be in a breakout room, or if you're not able to join a breakout room, you can put that 1 there and we will withhold you from the breakout rooms. Chris and Joanna will not be presenting during the breakout rooms. This is just an opportunity for you to connect with the community and connect with others and be able to speak what's coming up for you regarding the Shambhala warrior prophecy. So if you are not able to join or prefer not to join, go ahead and put a number 1 in front of your name. Rename yourself by hovering over your screen, and you'll see 3 little dots and an option to rename. If you do get an invitation to a breakout room and you're not able to join or prefer not to join, you can just ignore that invitation. Anyone who doesn't go into a breakout room will be placed into the waiting room. And that is an opportunity for you to engage in personal practice. And we'll be sharing some questions for engagement in the breakout rooms or for personal practice. It looks like breakout rooms will be about 5 participants each. So when you arrive, you'll have 12 minutes together, and we encourage you to just take a moment to land, see who you're with, and self-organize how you want to share your time together. Some of you may be really longing to speak and connect, and some of you may simply be wanting to witness. So just allow yourselves that time. So Chris, would you like to introduce the questions for the breakout rooms?
Thank you, Frida. And if you look in the chat window, I've just pasted 2 questions there. And just before I come to those questions, I want to say one of the things that I have most enjoyed and been inspired by in our writing process of this new edition are the conversations I've had with Joanna about the Shambhala warrior prophecy. We've put a bigger emphasis and featuring of that in this new edition. And we were exploring the question, what is it that arises in the minds and hearts of the Shambhala warriors? Because this, the kingdom of Shambhala is not a place, it's something that arises in the minds and hearts of the Shambhala warriors. And Joanna, you have this lovely phrase. You say, we are a planet people. That's what arises in the minds and hearts of the Shambhala warriors, like a deep knowing in our bones that we are a planet people. That's the country we're from. You know, we're from the kingdom of Shambhala. We're from this planet Earth. And like so much follows on from that. So the questions that we'd love to ask you is, so that's something I've really heard from you, Joanna, in the conversations we've had. What we'd love you to reflect on in the breakout rooms is, what do you hear in this prophecy? What does it mean to you, particularly about your own life? What we know, we've heard, and we give an example in the book of the idea that this story can act as a powerful summoning. Maybe for some, maybe not for others. But what does it mean for you, particularly in terms of your own life? And then the second question, which is related, is what does the Shambhala warrior prophecy call your attention to in terms of what we're facing today? So those 2 questions are in the breakout room and are in the chat window. And what I did, if I can find it, I also produced it as a PDF, but actually I'm not sure if that's immediately findable by me. So if you look in the chat window, what does this story mean to you, particularly in terms about your own life? What does it call your attention to? We invite you into the breakout rooms. Frida, I don't know if you want to say anything about the timing, and then you can just take us directly into them.
Yeah, you'll be in a breakout room of approximately 5 people, and you'll have 12 minutes. So we encourage you, just when you arrive, to self-organize how you feel called to be together. And yeah, if you don't go into a breakout room, you'll go into the waiting room, and we'll pull you back in after 12 minutes. So Sylvia, is everything in order?
Yeah, so some people have been adding their numbers at the end. So in those cases, they may not have captured if you see an invitation and you don't want to go into a breakout room, just stay behind, don't accept the invitation. I will put you in the waiting room. And so I will open the rooms right now, and you will be able to access the chat again when you click on the chat from the breakout room. I will also post, it's 15 minutes, right, Rita? So I will,
12 minutes, and it looks
12
like,
minutes.
yeah, Chris
Perfect.
just put a PDF, a JPEG with the questions there as well in the chat for everyone to see.
Perfect. Okay, so 4 minutes before the 12 minutes, I will send a reminder as well. Okay, so it's open now. Those of you who want to go into the breakout rooms can go.
Yeah, enjoy your time together, and we'll see you shortly.
Yeah, I don't see, let me see. It's not opening the breakout rooms, Frida. Do you know why is that happening?
I'm not seeing why.
Yeah, I see that everybody is able to chat. No problem with a mute, but it's not functioning, it's not working.
Yeah, give us just a moment for this to see. I'm not able to see the same screen that you are seeing, Sylvia, so I don't.
Yeah. See again.
So while you're waiting, just invite you to reflect on those questions. What do you hear in the prophecy? What does it mean to you, particularly about your own life? And what does it call your attention to in terms of what we're facing today? Reflecting on those as we move into the breakout rooms.
Okay, so technology seems not to be our friends right now. So I would say that we'll go with emergence, which is one of the tools of resilience. And what I would invite, Chris, if you agree with this, is to all take this minutes to reflect on the questions on our own, as the breakout rooms are not opening, and it may be because of the big size of the webinar is not working.
Yeah, I might be able to open them here on my end.
Yeah, try if you can.
So we'll see if this goes. Here's hopefully your invitations.
It is working for you?
It says it's open, but it looks like no one's receiving the invitation. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, something is happening when you click, it doesn't respond. The rooms are there, but it doesn't respond.
Perhaps you could open the chat so we could chat with each other and we could just put it in the chat.
Yeah, I think that we'll have to do that. Let's go ahead and open up the chat and just share with us what's happening with you, what's coming through.
Okay, so the chat is open as well from my side. Please try and see if you can chat with each other. Still, you can reflect on the questions.
Yeah, I'm wondering if anything is coming up for anyone in particular who would be interested in sharing with the group. We could hear from a few people. If you want to just put your hand up using the reactions down on the bottom of your screen, you should see reactions, and then you can raise your hand. And I see Dawn Shapiro. Do you have, oh great, there's Dawn. Would love to hear from you, Dawn. And then Carol, and then Jewel.
Hello. Hi. I'm so happy. Okay, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm calling from New Mexico. I don't know if you can see a poster behind me. The poster is called Climate Change, one of the principal challenges facing humanity in our day. And the poster was created by John August Swanson, who passed away a couple of years ago, a wonderful folk artist. The quote at the bottom is from Pope Francis, and it says, "Our goal is to become painfully aware, to dare to turn what is happening to the world into our own personal suffering, and thus to discover what each of us can do about it." And when I got this poster, it was around the time that Active Hope was published, the first edition. And I decided that I read about the Shambhala warrior, and I decided that I was going to call myself a samurai with a compassionate eye. A samurai with a compassionate eye. A samurai is a knight and a warrior. But in this case, I want to focus on the compassionate eye, to see the world through compassion. As Joanna, have you shared with us, with the tool that we have, the wisdom and the compassion. And I believe that if I can be that warrior, that samurai with a compassionate eye, then I know what my job is, my work is. I know what I need to do to help to heal our world. I am a deep ecologist in spirit, not as educated as many, but I realize that the tool that I have is compassion, the way that to turn around, the way to see the world with new eyes is not just for me, but to help others see the world with new eyes. And those new eyes are the eyes of love, compassion, sustainability, resilience, caring for every creature, caring for every species, helping to heal those who don't see that.
Thank you, Dawn. Wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank
and
you.
we have some others
hope,
with their hands
hope
raised.
That was meaningful.
Absolutely. We have some other folks with their hands raised too. I see Carol and then Jewel and Marilyn. And I also invite Chris and Joanna in here to join in conversation too, if they feel called. So Carol?
Hi, thank you. Well, I don't know fully how to take into the whole warrior story and the compassionate action and the wisdom. But I'm really glad to be hearing it. I do feel in my own life 100% that we're all citizens of the earth, and I'm very uncomfortable with boundary lines of countries or any other things, that these sort of man-made, very odd dividing things when we're clearly one earth and all things either work together for good or not. And I mean that not just about humans, of course, but all life. And like Don, I'm a longtime vegan, animal activist, native planter. I do everything I can in my own life, and I'm not at all afraid to speak up when I see a good opportunity with a stranger or a friend. When I see an opportunity to speak up, I surely do. And I'm glad to hear about this vision of one earth, which is clearly the only thing that makes sense, and why it doesn't to everyone is quite puzzling to me. So I guess, what else do I want to say? I guess beyond that, I guess I'm just glad to be listening and welcome feedback. And I'm really glad to know of a community, even though I don't quite know how to resonate with the warrior label. Lover, maybe, but not quite sure how to do the warrior. And I also feel completely overwhelmed by what's happening on the planet, in life, personally and globally. So glad to be here, and that's my sharing.
Oh, can I speak to that? I think that what it brings with the notion of training, discipline, self-discipline. You may not, wearing a uniform, but there's something that you are in service to. so that you're devoted to in service, and that it's something larger. It is something with other people in it. It's not just a house you're going to build for yourself or a book you're going to write by yourself, but this is and why you have this in this purpose. Oh, I have something to give my life to. There is also a sense of trust in the web of relationship, in the reciprocal relationship with others. A lot of people are lonely in our world. A lot of us people feel loose as a pea in a shoebox, you know, that, and that it doesn't matter what you do, or you're feeling so crazy that you can just take a rapid fire assault weapon and spray it over a gathering of people in a school or children, or so robbed of meaning. And I think that might be so. What's our meaning when in a world that's coming apart? Where do we find it? Is there something about native to complex life forms like us that we are built for teamwork? Is working in teams and collaboratively bring up some gifts for us, some surprises, some gladness of hearing and being heard, of acting, of a hand to reach for, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol and Joanna. I see some other folks have their hands up too, and I also want to just note the chat is so rich in your experiences, and I know that some of them are coming directly just to me, and so I will be saving the chat at the end of our call, and we'll share it with you all. You can just save it yourselves at the end of the call as well. So let's hear from a couple other folks, Jewel, and then Marilyn, and then Krista. Jewel, can you unmute? You're muted, Jewel. Jewel, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, great.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was trying to get my own image up. I can't. It would be lovely to be able to see more of us, to feel that more sort of in-person connection. Because yeah, the sense I get from looking at people's messages, such a depth of searching and needing and finding meaning, and not finding meaning in the way the world is. And I was glad that Joanne then brought it more into the awful materialist reality that we live in, the terrible things that are happening. You know, lots of terrible things recently in the States, but there's people starving everywhere. That feels unbearable, but most the helplessness of this awful Ukraine war, and just feeling that you know, also I think the isolation of COVID, I've learned hugely deeply how Gaia can heal patriarchy, which to me is the root of the issues, as I suppose I say as a psychologist. But you know, at every level, I just, we have to find ways to stop the terrible stuff that is happening here and now. And that is what leaves me in despair, where I need support, I need connection to be with other people in a way that I feel I can do something positive for that. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you for your honest words.
Thank you, Jewel. And we have Marilyn, and I'm gonna pull Chris here into the screen as well so that he can be with us in this. Okay, so Marilyn.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Joanna. Hello, Chris. Thank you so very much for your work. I have told so many people about Active Hope and given it as gift to so many people who have said it's one of the best books they've ever read. So trying to sow those seeds out there in the world. A couple of things I wanted to share. I'll always remember something that you said at the 2009 training in Ojai, Joanna, which is that it matters that we care, and that as things collapse, how important it is not to turn on one another. So I just wanted to put that out there because those are words that I often share in conversation too. It matters that we care and not to turn on one another. One thing that your work has really helped me to see, not just with my physical eyes, but with the eyes of my heart, is how, whether it's science or spirituality, that life is a learning, evolving, adaptive, dynamic, emergent, resilient system. And that right there gives me hope. Some practical things that I've been doing. I've been learning a lot about trauma. I just recently completed The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, and will be attending a week-long program with him starting tomorrow. He says that trauma is the #1 public health issue on our planet at this time. And I feel like one way I'm trying to be a Shambhala warrior and practice active hope is to understand trauma, which he basically says is just frozen fear. I think we're all in a state of frozen fear. And I think the more we can understand it, the more we can address it and release it and have all that energy to then do the good work of active hope. So I also feel like it might be worth just saying that it's really been helping me to learn more about quantum physics and how we look at things literally changes what we're looking at. And I've really been working hard on having compassion for the former president of the United States. I live in Western Massachusetts, and I feel like it's working because I've actually had a few very powerful dreams, vivid dreams, in which I'm talking with the former president with great compassion, not judgment, just asking this person, how are you feeling? What are you thinking? Please help me to understand your behavior. And I just will end with that because I feel like the more this Shambhala warrior combination of compassion and wisdom grows, it allows us to go on another plane where we can actually connect with somebody, perhaps on a spiritual level. I don't know how to explain it, but how we see affects how things evolve. And if we think negative thoughts and we think judgmental thoughts, we're only going to be growing more of that in the world.
Thank you.
Chris.
So also just I've been really enjoying reading the comments in the chat window, and so pleased that you're going to find a way of capturing those, Frida. A couple of things I wanted to pick up. Suzanne and Anne have both said that we all have those barbarian parts inside us. And one of the lines that I find most touching in the prophecy is, and in the video version of it that I refer to a lot and watch so many times, is that the line between good and evil runs through every human heart, that it's not about good people and bad people. And I interviewed a number of people as part of the free Active Hope training course that we've developed, and Mutima Imani was one of those. And there's a wonderful short video there, and thank you, Mutima. You put it so well, that we can dismantle patterns of thinking that cause harm. And that's really what this whole decolonization agenda and process is about, is how we can recognize that there are patterns of thinking inside us that divide us, and that we can dismantle them, looking at ways that we participate in forms of thinking and organizing that are causing harm. And this is part of the great turning up, turning over inside ourselves, and also then turning away from the forms of thinking and doing and being and acting and organizing ourselves that cause harm. So anyway, thank you. And also Kathy said that she was completely in awe of hearing Joanna tell the prophecy live, that it sent goosebumps. And we see this hearing the prophecy and telling the prophecy, experiencing the prophecy as a practice. Like mindfulness, you can do it every day. You know, you can come back to this prophecy, revisit it as a practice. Thank you.
Shall we take, we have time for a couple more before transitioning. So Krista.
Hi, I live in Oregon, and I'm very grateful to you, Joanna, and all the other warriors on this Zoom. And I feel called to do nonviolence and civil disobedience. I was imprinted at the Nevada test site as a Christian because I believe Jesus is another prophetic person who stood up to the forces of empire. And I feel as an American that I absolutely need to do this. And it's not for everybody, but I just want to share to anybody else who feels a similar calling that I've joined the Extinction Rebellion because they're all about civil disobedience through nonviolent direct action. And they acknowledge they don't have the answer to this huge crisis we're in, because the underlying problem is democracy. We don't have democracy. We're in this systemic colonialism, you know, and it's gone on for centuries, and we're at truly a turning point, but it's going to take, you know, engaged civil disobedience to get there. And the Extinction Rebellion is promoting citizens' assemblies, which go back to ancient Athens. It's what they did after they lost the war and were a you know, less powerful nation state. And citizens' assemblies are a way of empowering everyday people. And I could go on and on about them. So they're happening in Europe, and they've probably happened in many indigenous cultures that we've never studied. But anyways, thank you for listening. And thank you again. Amen.
Thank you, Krista. Ruth.
Well, hi, everybody. It's so good to see you, and Joanna, big, big hugs to you, and Chris, hi to you. I want to just share a practice that I have been doing with great joy with any humans that I come upon. And what it is, you know how when we run into each other, you say, oh, hi, how are you? And the other person says, fine, how are you? And you say, fine. And it gave me the sense that we really do want to recognize each other, but nobody really wants to stop long enough to answer the question. So there's two things that I now do. If somebody says to me, hi, how are you? I say, good to see you. And they say, oh, but do I know you? And I say, no, not necessarily, but it is good to see you. And they say, well, good to see you. And it's this little moment of changing an energy of stranger to a hug on some level that takes nothing more than several words. And then I've scaled up on it. I thought, okay, So about a few months ago, people would say, "Hi, how are you?" And I would think, "How am I today?" And I would say, "Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, today I'm an 8." And they say, "Oh." I said, "What about you?" They say, "Well," and they say, and so recently somebody said 5 and started just opening up and sharing. And I find it a very simple way of connecting. So I'm telling you all because I want it to be a global initiative. You know, when everybody used to sneeze like this, "Achoo," and now we all sneeze, "Achoo." It's that simple. So please pass it on. It's good to see you. And if you want to go a little further on a scale of 1 to 10, it's amazing how people want to be loved and seen. That's it. Thank you.
Ruth.
I love that. Thank you, Ruth. So I'm wondering if Chris and Joanna, if maybe we should take this moment. The breakouts didn't work, and this is beautiful. It's, I think, exactly as it was meant to be. But perhaps we could take a moment and, by way of transitioning, let's get us back on gallery screen here so we can all see each other. By way of transitioning, explore a moment of embodiment of what it would look like to take a physical position as a Shambhala warrior. What would that look like? Just you personally. If you want to turn off your camera, you're welcome to. If you want to share it with us via your screen, you're welcome to. If you want to stand, if you want to stay at your seat. However, maybe it's lying down. What does this look like for you as a Shambhala warrior? If you want to stand and stretch, please do. We'll just take a moment to explore the embodiment of the Shambhala warrior. And this, maybe you're just seeing one screen, but just take a moment to see what's happening here. Some folks are in the chat. We'll be saving that as well. We'll be sharing it with you all. Maybe we'll add it to a web page. There's so much beauty there, so much truth. A Shambhala warrior sees with sacred eyes, showing up with loving presence. It would be in a place of complete vulnerability, and it is there I find the most clarity, compassion, and strength, and much, much grace. An open-hearted leaning towards. I wrote on my front door here in a village in the southeast of France, burning. Beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there, from Rumi. Also, I remember the last training with Joanna and Chris in England with 65 European activists when I was invited to walk in the shoes of an employee from Monsanto, who I was fighting. What happened then was the field. Beautiful.
Mm.
And if you care to scroll through screens, just taking in the enormity of this Shambhala warrior community.
Please mute yourself. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, everyone, thank you. Chris, Joanna, how is this for you to be witnessing all these Shambhala warriors here?
I'm feeling again this sort of main note of my heart, mind, body, mind in this time is that I'm so grateful to be here. If I had known that this would be facing my brother, sister, bipeds, two-leggeds, my species, if I had known, I would have wanted so much to share this time. So I'm at 93. I am just so grateful to still be here. And my love and the sense of identification with each of you, listening to you, is my gratitude is so great for your existence and mine, for the prophecy, for a chance to see anybody, for a chance to take part in any way. It's just fills me with just one great big thanks, so that you can fall into love over and over again, even when you give up hope. You know, that it makes me think of my root tradition, which has St. Paul saying, there's a faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these. And you may find your faith on everything being great feels it's hard to reach. And maybe even the way most people think of hope is things are going to get better, as if it's rather than here I am and I have this capacity to take part. I can be in this game. I can be in this dance. And then there's the feeling of just loving life so much, loving each of you who's spoken and who hasn't, who's just tuned in. We're in this together. We are in this together. Yeah.
Thank you, Joanna. So maybe I can pick up at this point and move into our next part of our experience of being here together. And I've got a number of favorite points in the Shambhala Warrior Prophecy, but one that I call in now is where it goes, and now is the time the Shambhala warriors go into training. And so I'm going to suggest that we take that as our theme. Okay, how do they train? Well, I think the spiral of the Work That Reconnects is a powerful training. It's a powerful transformative journey. And that's why you're here. That's why we're here. But one of the comments in the chat window, Amy, you directed this just to me. You said, we need to take this further. We need to reach out to other places, and particularly people who may not have experienced this before. And I'm thinking there's doing active hope, showing up and acting in support of our hopes, but there's also supporting active hope. And what we've been working on, one of the offerings in the new edition is a practice that you can go round the spiral in a half-hour conversation with someone else. And we really encourage you to try this out. It's on page 42 in the new edition, and it's called 7 Sentence Starters in Support of Active Hope. We've come to call it the 7-point spiral. And at the website activehope.info, if you look at the resources there under videos, there's a video of a demonstration of 2 people, myself and Dr. Donta Counts, who I'd never met before. We met and we had a half-hour conversation that we were both energized and inspired by. So that's what we'd love to offer now. But we're not going to do it as a one-to-one conversation. You can also do this practice as a personal practice. And I find sometimes if ever I'm stuck waiting somewhere, or if I'm sometimes out for a walk, I might think, okay, I'm going to go through the 7-point spiral. So you can do it as a personal practice, but we've also done it in webinars, and we've done it in large groups and small groups as well. So you can do it as a group practice too. So what we're going to do with our limitation of time is our goal is just to introduce this practice. Some of you may have experienced it already, and we're going to do it primarily as a personal practice, but we're also going to invite you to share some elements of it along the way, particularly in the chat window. So I'm going to share screen again, and in sharing, this is the image that I'd love to share with you. This is from page 42 in the new edition, the 7-point spiral. And thank you to Carlotta Cataldi. Carlotta is fantastic graphic harvester, harvests information and presents it in images. And this is the journey that we're going to go round. You don't have to capture all of these right now, because we'll have slides looking at each one. And I also want to thank Dory Midnight for this fabulous picture she gave to Joanna. And I asked Dory, I said, how would you feel about us using this? And she says she's really happy for us to use this image, though please credit her when you do. So I want to credit you, Dory, now and say thank you. And I want to turn to the root structure here, this root structure. And in this 7-point spiral, the first 2 are about gratitude. And I think of it as do the 42, where one aspect of gratitude is about appreciation, and another is about thankfulness, looking at who's played a role and who we might want to thank. But let's start with appreciation. And right now, I'm going to invite you to have the sentence starter, I love. And just to see what comes from that. What is it you love? People, places, foods, experience, whatever it is. It's expressing our gladness to be here. What is it you love? And I'm going to invite you to write that in the chat window. But we're working with a constraint of time. So I'm going to suggest that we just do this for a minute. And Frida, I'm going to ask you just to read out what's coming up in the chat window. So here we go. We're going to have a minute. I'm going to do a countdown of a minute. So just thinking, feeling, what do I love? What would I love to name here? I love 1 minute together, beginning now.
I love my
Right.
cats, feeling inspired, walking, Zoom, life, aliveness, birds and trees. My mom, I love being in community. I love being here with everyone. Our men and our children, nature, deep, authentic sharing. I love my children. The song of the Swainson's thrush in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. I love smelling the cut grass. I love the smell of coffee. I love God. I love the opportunities to grow as a human, walk my talk increasingly, friends, trees, the breeze of the wind, water, lake swimming, children and trees. I love nature. I love being alive in my body, family. I love my life. You're going to have to cut me off, Chris, if you need me to, because I can keep going.
I'll raise my hand in 5 seconds.
The one, I love this communing. I love the world, the sky, music. I love my dog.
There we go. There we go. That's our minute. And we've just heard from a poet called Our Group. And this is collective intelligence. This is us speaking through Frida. Thank you. So we're going around a spiral. This might be something you do. You stop for a moment and say, I love, see what comes. Notice how you feel. Notice what that does to you, where it takes you. But also, gratitude is a social emotion that points our attention outwards. And so if we were to think, just remember, recall, reflect on who's played a role here. I'd like to thank. Now's an opportunity. Grateful to. I love is grateful for. I'd like to thank is grateful to. 1 minute of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving together. And Frida, if I can call on you again. I'd like to thank, beginning now.
I'd like to thank planet Earth, Mother Earth. I'd like to thank Joanna. I'd like to thank Peter, Barry, my teachers, nature, Joanna and Chris, generosity of aunties and uncles, my teachers, my mother. I'd like to thank the trees, my partner, my parents, my children, my family, my friends. I'd like to thank Ian McGilchrist, my guardian angel. I'd like to thank Joanna, my husband, my teachers, my parents, and other nurturing, generative adults, the sky, my son and mother. I'd like to thank my beloved ancestors. I'd like to thank the incredible people in my life, ancestors, my city, all my teachers, my mom, my maternal roots in India, Gaia, my mom and dad who encouraged our love of learning, Armin for all caretaking, my beloved teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, my dearest friend who introduced me to Joanna and Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. How to face the mess we're in with unexpected resilience and creative power. One of the ways is to resource ourselves, reminding ourselves why we're glad to be here, and who's played a role, and thanking them. And also in resourcing ourselves, then also we're moving round a spiral and we're turning towards looking at the future we're heading into, honoring our pain. We're just inviting you to see what words follow the sentence, looking at the future we're heading into, my concerns include. So we're naming that together. I'm going to suggest that we have a minute in silence of just writing, and we might be able to see what's there, but just spending time in silence in remembrance. And then we're going to invite in some voices, invite you to speak to that. But first, let's just have our minute of reflection and writing, beginning now. And that's our minute. And there's so much more, and it might feel constraining even just to have a minute, but we're just acknowledging. We're acknowledging some of what's there. And I thought it'd be really good also to hear from some of us too, that if you'd like to speak to your concerns, to share them with us, we'll probably just have time for 2 or 3. But let's hear whoever the group wants to speak through. If you just raise your hand and invite, I don't know, Frida, if you want to call them in. I see Michelle, you've got your hand up.
Michelle and then Catherine.
My concern is that we don't recognize how we other and leave people behind. I really would love to see those aspects within ourselves to be accepted, those that we other to feel separate are included in our future going forward. We all need to be woven together, and that scares me, that we'll leave people behind and their humanity going forward, and our own full humanity, meaning the light in the dark. Yes. So, and just adding with that is that I don't want to leave on the same note. It scares me that I will leave I think this is how I want to say it. It scares me that I will leave aspects of my humanity behind. And those aspects being the shadow and the most amazing aspects of myself. But this work has brought me to such shattering, and in that shattering, recognizing, again, repeating myself, those aspects that truly are part of my humanity. And I think that's part of how we got here. We are so othered within ourselves. We're so othered outside ourselves. And for us to come back. So that's my greatest work, of sounding that note down to the cellular makeup of who I am, down to the sounding note of my soul. And not proverbially, I am talking that place. And from that place, that is where the flourishing comes. So thank you. And I'm not used to speaking. My apologies.
Beautiful, Michelle. Thank you. Catherine, and then Carolyn. And I think we'll need to move on at that point.
Mine is very similar. I said my concerns include the growing divide between myself and people who don't feel the urgency, fear, and understanding of the peril we're in, and the emptiness resulting from that. Thanks.
Thank you, Catherine. Carolyn.
The thing I fear is the collapse of everything about the world as I have known it. The collapse of ecosystems, the collapse of social structures, the collapse of economies. The world we have known will be gone. That's my share.
Thank you, Carolyn.
I want to say I feel with the concerns voice, and thank you for those who've stepped up, allowed the group, us here, to speak through you. And also our work is, well, there's facing that, and what do we bring to it? What helps us? What helps us face the mess we're in with unexpected resilience and creative power? And so we move on with our journey round the spiral, acknowledging what we've heard, and then saying, okay, we're facing that, facing these concerns. What inspires me? And if we have a minute of just writing in the chat window, and Frida, if you could read out some of the shared inspirations, it'd be really great to hear them. But let's hear, facing these concerns, what inspires me is...
Kindness in unexpected places, gathering with purpose, all the possibility, young people, the creativity of humans, gatherings like this, the resilience of nature, artists, these kinds of meetings, meditation, all of you, beauty, life itself, planting nut trees, yoga, nature, trees, the ones who show up, the work that reconnects, Taizé community. Ooh, this is moving fast. Liz Cheney, who I never thought I'd be inspired by, a truly courageous change maker. The joy and innocence of children, what comes out of gatherings and groups, beauty in a living world, evidence of people's creativity, compassion, and ingenuity. The people here haven't given up. Universe exploration, understanding of dark matter, new levels of emotional intelligence, especially in young people.
Thank you. Thank you, us. And there's more too that we could harvest. And so there's facing what is, facing what we face, feeling what we feel, and then saying, what do we bring to that? What supports our active hope? And so if we move on round our spiral now to the going forth part, and love this sense of hope. There's hope as in hopefulness, but what we're writing about in active hope, or what we're experiencing with active hope, is hope as in desire. Looking at how the many different ways a future can go. What's our preferred version? What is it we deeply hope for? I'm going to suggest that we take these three together and that we give ourselves 3 minutes as a reflection. It's not very long, But just 3 minutes, if you were just to write maybe a sentence or two on each one, looking at the future we're heading into, what I deeply hope for is, and what I'd suggest is that you don't press the return after each one, that you write all three and then press the return on the chat window. A part I'd like to play in support of this is, and a step I'll take towards this in the next week is, and I'm just going to suggest that we have 3 minutes of silence just to be with and to write in and to share our reflections. See where we are with time after that. So beginning now, going forth. And that's our 3 minutes. And if you didn't get time to write or reflect as much on that as you'd like, this is a practice we can come back to again and again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can just put a picture in the chat window. I'm going to stop share and see if I can put a picture in the chat window that you can download. And let me just see. And while I'm doing that, one idea we had initially was that we might go into breakout rooms and share either a step we're going to take or something we're taking away from this webinar. And since I'm not sure we can rely on breakout rooms, but we've got our last nearly 15 minutes of this, and there's some announcements and things to share at the end. But perhaps over the next 5 or a bit more minutes, we can hear from each other either let's start. Maybe just have 5 minutes. Anybody want to share what you're going to do in the next 7 days? And just to say that one thing Joanna said that has really struck with me years ago, she said, is the person we most need to hear from is ourselves. But also my background in behavior change, particularly working in addictions recovery, one of the ideas there is change talk. When people hear themselves saying the steps that they're going to take, when people hear themselves voice the concerns that motivate them and why that's important to them, it's like we speak ourselves into following a course of action. It's one of the ways we talk ourselves into active hope. And so it's a really great thing to hear ourselves speak, but it's even more powerful when we're witnessed by others. So maybe over the next 5 minutes, we can hear some of the steps that people might take. And then it would be great to hear after that things people are taking away from this webinar. So does anyone want to speak? I see some hands up. Frida,
Yeah.
I'm going to hand over to you.
All right. I see Ellen and Barry, and then Jane, and then Michael, and I'll go ahead and pin you, Ellen and Barry.
Okay. I wrote, and there were 2 steps. I want to take the step of continuing to transform my own conditioning that tends to judge and blame, and I have some practices that I will definitely continue to practice during the week. My nonviolent communication and my 14 mindfulness trainings I've taken out on. And then also I will continue to support financially as best I can, because with body I can do much less than I used to. But with some financial support, groups of people who are doing this wonderful work, many Indigenous people, they have this wisdom and they are working, and those are the people I tend to want to contribute to because they have been so disadvantaged. And connecting with the people in my life and supporting and encouraging them, that's what I can do, is to give them support and reinforcement and love and compassion for the good work that they are doing so that they can continue on long past my lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Jane.
Much more simple from me. What I wrote down was that I was going to walk my walk and talk my talk. Well, talk my talk and walk my walk. And so what I'm going to do in the next week is speak to at least 3 people about the Shambhala prophecy that I've heard tonight and how I'm feeling. That's it.
Thank you, Jane. Let's see, Michael and Lori.
We'd both like to share briefly, thanks. And I do need to say this in front of other people. What I'll do in the next week is seriously apply myself to more skillfully solving the conundrum of balancing my time and energy between my work in the world, the kind of self-care that will actually enable me to do my work in the world more effectively, and weeding out what I said to Lori is the bullshit.
Oh, and what I would like to share is that listening to Joanna talk about the Shambhala prophecy of compassion on one hand and everything being connected in the world, I would love to find a way to take this to other communities that we don't see often. You know, that the other, you know, the people that we demonize, to take that compassion approach and the interconnectedness, the philosophy of the Shambhala prophecy, and somehow see what would happen. I see a lot of potential there. Listening to their needs.
Thank you, Michael and Lori. Brianna?
Hi, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, for me, I think what I've been noticing through today is just that I'm experiencing a lot of compassion fatigue, and I've been focusing on not continuing past of burnout, and seeing how compassion fatigue has led to very dark and negative views. And I'm also in a big transition spot in my life where I've moved away from a lot of my community that
help me create hope. So I think I'm very unsure of what I want to do next. And my willpower is probably the thing helping me move forward. So I think what I just need to do is maybe really practice more meditation and really try and see what's there, what's the spark, reconnect with my spark, and try to use that instead of willpower. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Amanda.
Hi, thank you. It's so wonderful to be here. I'm quite excited because I was kind of brought to this work in the area of Buddhism and Shambhala warrior ideas through a group that I'm with now in our local community. It's called Sangha Mamas, and it's just a group started by a woman who was trying to connect with other mothers through Buddhism. And we have decided upon my urging to read Act of Hope as a group. And so we're starting tomorrow to actually meet for the first time live in 2 years since COVID, and have a discussion regarding the book. And so we're going to work our way through it together. And I really believe in the ability of sharing things with other people, like you were saying them out loud, saying the steps that you want to take and saying your beliefs out loud so that other people witness that. It creates so much more support. And one of the other things I'd like to do this week is write to the store that's right by our house, which is Trader Joe's, which I do a lot of shopping at, and complain about how much plastic they use. So I need to start using my voice and using writing to reach out and push on the beliefs that I hold instead of just holding them inside. So my work is going to be starting to talk and push those ideas out, and share the ideas of Active Hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And we have Aggie and Luby.
Hi there. We're in Hungary at the moment, and we've got coming up this week a Mother Nature training with 20 women exploring ourselves as mothers, as natural leaders. And we were just, we've both done trainings with Joanna, Chris, and we were just sharing how much this webinar has really landed at the right time for us in this preparation, and how we're able to deepen into our intentions for the training, which we were planning to do, Work the Reconnect Spiral, and to really work with women to explore their leadership. And this has just really supported us. And and we're just, you share them, Maggie.
Yeah, so actually we are also creating within this project this deck of Mother Nature cards. That this one is about connection, like mothers and ecology, and also like how we experience eco-anxiety as mothers, and supporting other women to really go through it or like share it, and creating communities of sharing. So this like images we are hoping to work with these women and integrate their wisdom also into this deck. So thank you a lot for being kind of behind us as a greater, larger community.
Yeah, and we want to invite these women into being part of this Shambhala warrior community. Thank you.
Beautiful. Would you please put in the chat how we can see those cards? I'd love to see them. Thank you both. We have a few more people with hands raised, and I really would love to hear from everyone. We only have so much time, and I'm also noting Mutima has your hand raised, and Mutima is one of the weavers of the Work That Reconnects Network. So Mutima, I would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you. What a blessing to be here with you all. Thank you, Chris. And of course, thank you, Joanna, for still being alive, still being the root teacher, still speaking the truth. One of the things that, hi, everybody. One of the things that I'm very excited about is Molly Brown and I are putting on a workshop called Liberation from Racism. And we're really looking at how do we decolonize our minds and come out of the racist white supremacist idea of separateness. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. And what I mean by that is I know your hearts are in the right places, but it's really time to decolonize our minds and really look at what are the structures that we are holding, each one of us individually, and how do we extend that love. And one of the ways is awakening to loving Black. It's a global invitation and a challenge. And not just me, not me, but all things that represent Black, which is the woman's womb. And you know, we cannot even see the stars without the Blackness. We need to come out of the centuries of conditioning that Black is evil. And then we can lend our love to people who call themselves Black, because the same mind that is against Black and think negatively about Black folks is the same mind that says climate change doesn't matter. And as warriors, we're calling them up into a higher consciousness, not in or out, but up to the realization that there's only one human race. And I pray to the Great Mother that she just doesn't fart or hiccup and throw us off. Because who are we to think that we could destroy her because we did not create her? So thank you. Thank you for all of the ways that you're already making the great turning happening. You've got to know that it's happening. And thank you for the tantric side of the Work That Reconnects. And those of you who know what I'm talking about and you don't, find out. Thank you. Thank you. Peace and blessings.
Thank you, Mutima. Joanna, Chris, we have just a few minutes left. I wonder if there's any concluding words. We have some closing and offerings to mention, but I wonder if there's anything you would like to share before we part.
What I am experiencing is such a tide of warmth, warm energy, and that there's never a time, I realize, just what I'd like to say, when we cannot find strength in sharing our deepest desires for our world with others. What we've experienced is what here together is what the whole world needs to come home to our own selves and to others. And then hearing Mutima, I'm reminded of a sonnet that starts, "Let this blackness be a bell tower." Actually, the word is darkness, but yeah, the darkies remind us. "Let this darkness be a bell tower, and you the bell. And as you ring, what batters you becomes your strength." So move back and forth into the changes. Dear ones, I've taken you with such gladness into my heart. Seen familiar faces from other countries. Oh my, such what, and from here and from times past. I feel like a garden that's just been watered. Chris?
Thank you. What I'm really appreciating is there's content and there's also community. And as I look at you, and I'm just going to invite you just to maybe we can kind of reach out and kind of have a sense of ourselves making contact with each other. That one of the deep insights of the work that reconnects is that we're not alone. And nothing we ever do is ever just by itself. We're alongside each other. And having that deep understanding of synergy and emergence, that when we act with there's power with, that we just don't know what we contribute to. One of the themes that we've explored, thank you, Joanna, the bell. One of the themes we've explored much more in this new edition is the question, what happens through you? What happens through you? What happens through us? Active hope can happen through us. It can be a living energy of engagement that happens through our choices and actions and our turning up each day with each other. Thank you.
Wow, thank you both so much for joining us today and everyone who's participated and shown up. I'm filled with gratitude and just feeling the balm of this community in my heart. So Sylvia has been putting some additional opportunities, Chris's Active Hope free training, a self-timed course. She put the link in there, as well as all the facilitator events that are offered through the Work That Reconnects website. So I encourage you to take a look and join in community through any of those events. We have quite a number of upcoming webinars. Sylvia has also put the list of them into the chat. Details on all of those will be coming soon, so look for those over the coming months. Yeah.
And we will be collecting all the wisdom that you share through the chat, and we will share that in the follow-up email. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and if there's facilitators on the call, we encourage you to develop a webinar and present it here with us, with the Work That Reconnects Network. We welcome you. We welcome your wisdom. So, yeah, so thank you for joining us today. To learn more about the Work That Reconnects Network, our webinars and Conversation Cafe series, please visit our website at workthatreconnects.org. And yeah, if you're not already registered on the website and want to participate in our community forum and continue the conversation, we encourage you to join us at workthatreconnects.org, community member registration. Looks like Sylvia's sharing that. Thank you so much, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you soon.